Train commuters on all lines will be able to find real-time updates on delays to their trips from tomorrow. This is through a one-stop webpage. Currently, rail operators SMRT and SBS Transit publish notices separately for the lines they manage. Eugene Chow has more.
When train delays happen now, commuters have to look for updates online, which could come from various sources, including the two different operators. But from Saturday evening, a new site will list all delays. The status of each line will be indicated: green for normal services, yellow for minor delays, and orange for major delays. Train service delays are classified as either a minor or a major one depending on duration. A minor delay is when service is estimated to be impacted for less than 30 minutes, while a major one would spend longer than half an hour. It would take into account factors such as how many stations are affected, as well as whether it's happened during peak hours. For a major delay, commuters will be advised to take alternative arrangements. For minor delays, there will be announcements in stations and trains and webpage updates. Only when there are major delays will there also be social media posts. LTA says social media remains an important form of outreach to commuters, but such posts could reach commuters at different times, including after incidents are resolved. Still, some commuters say they find the posts useful.
Even if they're minor, I think it still affects some group of people. So definitely, I think it's really a good thing that authorities notify everybody about the disruptions.
Most of the working people in Singapore during peak hours use some public transport. So it's better if they know and they can plan it or they can inform someone even if they're not using it on that day.
Commuters may get even more journey-specific information in future, as LTA plans to provide data to Google Maps. This will improve journey time estimates when delays occur. LTA also released Singapore's latest rail reliability figures. Based on the main metric used to measure such reliability, as at end October, it improved across all lines except for the Circle Line, which saw a slight drop from the month before. There were also no delays longer than 30 minutes on the network, an improvement from the 2 in September.
So let's stay on track to explore what the data really means. We speak next to transport expert Dr Terence Fan, Assistant Professor of Strategy and Entrepreneurship at the Singapore Management University. Terence, thanks for joining us. Now, we heard there that commuters are now going to get real-time updates, real-time disruption updates, even as they unfold. From a commuter trust standpoint, which I think is really the crux of the issue here, how important is transparency just like this?
Thanks for inviting me. I think this is very important because it gives commuter a one-stop kind of location to look for information. And in a sense that it also is not going to wait for other authorities or operators. It's just going to be information communicated to commuters in real time. So I think that hopefully will increase commuters' sense of transparency in the operation of our trains. And it also provides a convenience, some sense of convenience. This is one place. You don't have to look at multiple kind of social media sites. This is the one place you need. And it does give you an overview of all the different lines that we have in Singapore in terms of whether they're irregular operations, whether there are sort of unscheduled disruptions, or even hopefully it will also incorporate some of the scheduled maintenance together so that people can understand if I want to go from A to B, exactly what the alternatives are, because you also see what the other lines are. And it sort of also removes some of the inconvenience for commuters to look for the websites supplied by the different train operators. So hopefully that will increase the level of trust as well.
No, I think you said it in a really good way, but still, communication, it seems, has become such a critical part of the rail business or the rail reliability business today. Do you think LTA has done enough in this respect to restore the confidence in commuters who recall past disruptions and specifically, you know, it's quite an emotional experience when you miss that meeting or you miss that interview. Have they done enough?
Yes, I think LTA has done enough at this point in time. So in a sort of a project that does not require a lot of investment, but it in a way can improve a lot of convenience and sort of real time alleviate some of the anxieties commuters have, because sometimes commuters, the only thing they know when they stand at the platforms or at the station is, okay, the trains are not here. Okay, shall I reschedule my meeting? Should I postpone it by half an hour and so on? So that's a little bit of an information vacuum, a little bit of uncertainty on the part of commuters. And in our hectic life these days, people do schedule meetings, have activities with their children and so on. So it's important for people to know, how they should react. So I think this hopefully will give commuters a greater sense of information and sort of reliability or trust in the information that they get.
It's interesting because even one of the interviewees in our package said even a little bit of communication is still communication, because people have to make on-the-spot decisions, as you talked about. But do you think that there is a strategic blind spot when the agencies, as we heard, are going to announce the major disruptions, right? Those, 30 minutes and above, and leave the minor ones online in, maybe not announce it as loudly. Could that intentionally create like a so-called blind spot or erode some kind of confidence?
Yeah, that's a good point, because at some point, I think LTA needs to draw the line. At what point do they sort of go all out to inform everybody? And at what point do they just say, okay, announce at the station, you wait in a few more minutes? So I think 30 minutes is a reasonable mark at this point, and I think we'll have to see as disruptions unfold, whether that's sufficient or not. And maybe it also depends on whether the disruption occurs during peak hours where a lot of people would travel, or maybe it's 11 p.m. where very few people will be affected. So there might be some.
Or just put it all out there and let people decide for themselves. What is severe for them.
That's true. But then at some point, do you want to be bombarded with the information, with the red flags? All these things are happening, but in fact, you only have to wait for two more minutes. So I think that's where I think it's something
the
that
balance.
the balance is something that LTA can also learn along the way.
In some ways, Singapore, the agencies don't really have to guess, right? Because, there are lessons that we can learn, or the task force can learn from cities with similar rail issues like London, like Paris, So what can we take away from there that we can then localize to our own situation?
First of all, the reliability in Singapore is far better than many other cities like London and Paris and New York and so on. So I think we have to recognize that we are living in a level of service that is, unsurpassed in many ways. But having said that, this particular sort of signal board also borrows from some of the experience from the other operators. So, for example, in London, there are also many rail lines. So when one line is down, people also need to figure out, okay, how are they going to go to where they want to go? Are they going to take another line, or do they have to go and take a bus and so on? So it helps people by giving them an overall sort of higher level view and superimposing information on different lines together, so they don't have to go search at different sites and so on.
Okay, so I'm thinking in our last question, we're talking about the Thomson East Coast line. That's had a few major delays in the past. As we move forward, because I know it's not going to be fully completed to 2026, right? So even as we move forward, how confident are you that the challenges that are going to be addressed and it will improve to a standard once it launches fully? Okay,
my comment is, I think overall, because this particular rail line is sort of getting into operation fully with all the stations. So usually what will happen is that the level of disruptions would go down as this happens. But intermittently, yes, it will be unfortunate if one particular commuters will be stuck, because of some issues. But in general, typically the level of disruptions would go down as the line matures and stay that way. So hopefully that will be the case.
All right. Well, always good to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been speaking there with Dr. Terence Fan from SMU.